evening, everyone. Welcome to the May 5th, 2025 Planning Board meeting. If we could please first stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, first we got correspondence. Any comments on it?
No. No correspondence.
We have meeting minutes from April 21st, 2025. Any alterations, corrections?
None here.
And here.
John?
Nothing here.
Good?
I spoke with David, and he looked at them and said they were good. So.
All right, thank you, Counselor.
Motion to accept.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, we're in the regular portion of the meeting. First, we have the Miraggio Restaurant. This is a decision statement. Location's 90 Triangle Center. This is a request for a special use permit to construct a permanent 114-seat outdoor dining area. How are you?
Good. Good evening. Jim Flandreau. I'm the architect for the project. We were in front of you last meeting discussing the outstanding items from the planning department, and I believe we buttoned them all up, and we're on for a public hearing tonight. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So this has been in front of us twice.
Yeah, no
Any
problem.
comments?
No.
John?
Nothing further.
Dan's here to ask him. Have you seen the resolution?
Yeah, took a look at everything.
Any issues?
I didn't see any issues.
Then we have a resolution approving special use permit for outdoor dining at the Miraggio Restaurant. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you very much. Have a good
Okay.
night.
Okay, we're gonna move into the work session portion of the meeting.
Jam.
First in front of us,
Couldn't
we have
even
the
get in
Coulter site
Believe it.
plan. This is a discussion on the site plan. Location 644 Pines Bridge Road.
Good evening.
How you doing?
Good. My name is John Alfonsetti. I'm here representing Janie Colter, and thank you for coming out tonight. This is probably something you don't see every day, but this subdivision was divided 3 years ago roughly,
Yeah.
and today we're putting it back together. The client who's buying this piece of property would like a one-level, kind of spread-out house. In order to do that properly and get the setbacks, she's going to buy both lots, or she intends to, and put them back together. So right now, she's in contract. She's waiting for this approval, or at least a close approval, before she closes, and at that point, they'll join the property. The current owner doesn't want to do it until, obviously, they got the money in hand.
Right.
Is it unsubdivision?
Yeah.
Undivided.
It's a difficult one.
Sounds like that show, right? The unsub, what is that? What show is that?
Listen, I wish they were all like this. It makes it a little easier on my end.
So what would the?
So, I think the best thing to do
Yeah.
is to do a resolution adopting and approving a map that shows the property back together again, and then that gets filed in the county.
That's fine.
I think that will be the best for the, the history of the project.
Yeah, I think, you wanna bring that up?
Believe this.
Uh-oh, what happened?
I don't know. I just hit connect and
Oh,
I have the hard copies if you want me to
Yeah,
grab
let
them.
me, bring a hard copy.
Has this happened to you before? No. Oh. I just showed it. You have it? Oh, John, you have it.
Oh, that's great. So there's the site plan, with essentially the house that she'd like to put in. The septic is gonna go exactly where the old septic was approved. She wants a 4-bedroom. That upper lot, number 1, used to have a approval for only 3-bedroom. The lower lot has 5-bedroom septic approved, so that's the other reason we're gonna buy both. We're just gonna utilize what was already approved with the health department, but use it for 4 bedrooms instead of 5. Okay? And I don't know if that's the drawing you were referring to, but I do have one, without the house and the septic shown for the
Yeah,
town,
we-
for the county.
yeah, we can work out what exactly is needed and
Okay.
try to keep it as simple as possible, so.
Right, so it's just cleaning it up.
So, yeah, so we'll get together and we'll figure out what the path is.
Okay.
And do it as fleetly as possible.
Okay, yep, like I said, the owner, the current owner, obviously is in contract. They like to close as soon as possible. It's already been probably 60 days, so they want to get this done with and move on. So if we could move it along, that'd be great.
Anybody see any issues?
No, no issues.
First
So
time.
so once this is combined,
It's clean.
we don't have to do anything afterwards, right? In other words, we're not really, once these two lots go back together again, then it becomes a single lot building permit situation,
That's right,
right?
yeah. Mhm.
Doesn't have to come back here.
I don't think so. Was there 3 lots of,
Well, there was the original lot
yeah,
with the house that is on it,
existing, yeah.
the existing house, and then the other 2 lots were taken off of that.
Unless you wish to see the site plan for the individual lot, which you're looking at now,
Right.
and evaluate it, then it comes back.
Yeah, this-
But typically, no, they need to follow the improvement plan, and that's handled by the building department and the engineering department.
I think this is about as easy as you can get.
That's fine, right?
Yeah. You good with that?
Good word. No
Okay.
problem.
All the best to you.
Oh, yes,
All right.
Okay.
Good luck.
okay.
So we got draft, we're gonna do a
He's gonna
resolution.
draft a resolution, yep.
Yeah, we'll do it next time.
Yeah, well, you and I can talk and figure out.
Okay, I'll
And
give you a
then-
call this week or set up a time?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, why don't, yeah, we'll talk on the phone, possibly have a meeting.
perfect. Anything else, gentlemen?
No, I think we're good.
No.
Okay, thank you very much.
right,
Have a
good
good
luck.
night.
See you soon. Something tells me the next one's not gonna be so easy.
I couldn't promise anything down.
All right, next we have Toll Brothers. This is a discussion of the site plan. Location is 2302 and 2448 Catherine Street.
We'll take what he took.
Counselor, if you could.
Yes.
If you can kind of give us a Cliff Notes version.
Will do,
of
yep.
Where it started, what's been done, and where we are now, because we know a lot's taken place.
Sure. Okay. Well, good to
right.
see you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is David Cooper, partner with the law firm of Zarin and Steinmetz here representing the applicant Toll Brothers. With me is Kevney Moses from Toll Brothers, who you'll remember, and Diego Villarreal and Paul Dumont from JMC, the project engineers, and Jacqueline Cohen, my colleague. We are here tonight kicking off the what I'll call the planning board leg of the project. We are here asking your board for a minor subdivision to subdivide the property into 2 lots. We'll get into that in a second. Site plan approval for the 118-unit townhouse development. A special permit also for the 118-unit development for the senior citizen development, and a wetland permit. Just proceed from a procedural posture perspective. If you recall, this is now the updated site plan, but when we first came to the town and before your board and the town board, the original proposal was for 131 units. Over the course of the review, over the last couple of years, through the secret process through the town board, in which your board was an involved agency, the project was reduced to 118 units, which is the project you're looking at now. Toll agreed to create a 14.3 acre conservation area, which is the sort of the lighter area in the green on the right side of the property, to preserve the field home building. That's why there's a subdivision application before you, because we're going to carve out a 2.46 acre lot on which the field home building is located. So that would be separated out from the development. And agreed to various other benefits and conditions of approval, which I'll get, or conditions of the neg deck, which I'll get to in a second. With respect to the procedural posture, in December of 2024, the town board, serving as lead agency, again, which your board was involved agency, and we spent a lot of time with your board going through the impacts. The town board adopted a negative declaration both for the rezoning of this site into the RSP2 district, as well as the site plan subdivision and everything that's before you as well. And then subsequently, the town board rezoned the site to the RSP2 district. So that sets us up for this leg of the review, in which now the site plan, the subdivision, and the other approvals are before your board. With respect to the subdivision, because it's only 2 lots, it's a minor subdivision, and there's obviously a public hearing requirement on that. There's a public hearing requirement on the site plan as well as the special permit and the wetland permit. So all of that will be before your board. But what I'll do is I want to hand it over to Diego just to take you through where the plans have been advanced since the last time we were before you. Now that the negative declaration rezoning is in place, Toll and JMC has spent several months now working on the nuts and bolts, which are going to be before your board as we go forward in terms of utilities, stormwater, et cetera. So let me turn it over to Diego to take you through those details of the plan, and then I'll come back to you in terms of what we see as the next steps forward. So.
Good evening. For the record, again, Diego Villarreal with JMC. We're the planning and engineering consultants working with the applicant. And as Mr. Cooper had indicated, since the rezoning has been put in place, we've taken the site plan drawings, advanced them to a point that is in front of you right now, which includes a complete set of site plans, layout, grading, utility information, stormwater calcs, etc., all of which has been packaged up for site plan consideration. Just to go over just a couple of the existing conditions quickly, you see the aerial photograph of this site. Just to orient everyone, Field Street is just to the east or the right-hand side of the page. Catherine Street is off to the left, and then you see the central portion where the soccer field is located, and then the field home parcel on the southern portion of the page there. Overall, the site is about a little over 50 acres in size. And if you could go to the next slide, please. This very quickly, just to touch on the subdivision, and I actually think the last slide shows it just a touch better. Jump back real quick, Paul, if you don't mind. You can see the yellow line on the bottom portion of the page. That represents where that subdivision line is being proposed. That's what carves off that 2+ acre parcel on the southern portion of the property, and then the balance of the property would remain. Now go to the next slide. This is the subdivision plat that was included in the site plan application. This is what will ultimately be filed with county land records once the subdivision is finalized and approved. Next slide. So as Mr. Cooper had indicated before, this is the current site plan, just a rendered version of the black and white version that's included in your package there. And generally the project is consistent with what has been presented to the town board and what was approved as part of the rezoning application. It's just been in advance from an engineering standpoint to include all the necessary details that this board needs to hopefully make a decision on the site plan. First and foremost, all of the conditions of the zoning resolution have been incorporated into the site plan. We'll go through a couple of those from a screening standpoint and things like that. And then again, we advanced a number of the other details of the project. So the driveway configuration, again, remains the same. There's 2 points of access off of Catherine Street. It navigates through the site, loops around, and comes down on the middle portion of the page there. There is a small section of the development that gets served from a cul-de-sac and a dead-end area. All of this has been designed in accordance with the town's requirements, the cul-de-sac from a fire access standpoint, turnaround areas, the widening of the roads at very specific areas where we have fire hydrants. All of that now has been detailed and incorporated into the site plan itself. One of the conditions included as well the curbing improvements along Catherine Street. All of those have been identified on the site plan and has been incorporated into the set. The buildings obviously are shown on the site plan as well. It consists of a combination of 3 and 4 packs of the building, each of them with its own garages, driveway, and then deck or patio along the backside, depending if it's a walkout and the type of unit that exists on the property. Now, again, topography and grading has all taken a significant role in the development of this site plan. As you know, it kind of slopes down to the north and to the east. There's the wetland area and the wooded area off to the east side of the page that's within that conservation area. And the roadways, again, and the building design has all been utilized to really consolidate the development, maximize the use of the grade change, and minimize the amount of earthwork that needs to be done on the property there. So a lot of those buildings, for instance, are walkouts, meaning that lower level of the building works with the grade and you're able to go out the back level of it at a lower elevation. And what that allows us to do is work with the grades and minimize the amount of earthwork that's needed for each individual lot. As part of this submission, one of the most important things too is we developed all of the utility improvements. So there is a full sanitary sewer and water system design that's been included in the package. We've had a number of meetings with the town engineer as well, just as we went along the way developing the sewer and water improvements, just to make sure we were trying to address as many comments before the package was submitted. So we took that information, we developed a sanitary sewer and water system improvement plan, all of which is shown on that utility plans. It also shows the connections. As you saw on the subdivision plat, there is a sewer line that traverses this property. All of that is being relocated as part of the proposed improvements to continue the service that goes through the property as well. We also developed a full stormwater pollution prevention plan, and that was included in this package. That has been in progress for several months. That included work with the DEP, including testing. We had to go out there and do a number of test pits to confirm soil conditions on the property itself. So there is a robust stormwater pollution prevention plan that includes a number of different stormwater practices that address stormwater management on the property. We have bioretention basins, we have stormwater infiltration basins, and then we have detention basins, all of which have been incorporated in and around the site plan to address stormwater improvements. There's been a phasing plan that's developed. Due to the size of the property and the amount of disturbance that's required, we break it down into individual phases. I believe the last time you saw it, it was at 3 phases. It's been increased to 4 phases. Again, that's just to better work with the cuts and fills and the earthwork on the property to consolidate the development areas into different phases and allows them to build it in a certain sequence as they move along. We also included a lighting plan and landscaping plan in your package. This just gives you some of the indications of the landscaping that's going to be included on the site plan and the screening that was required as part of the conditions of the approval. There's a significant amount of plantings on the north side or the top portion of the page, all of which was intended to screen the trail as required by the approval resolution. A number of screening or number of plantings have been installed in and around the amenity areas to screen the various amenities in and around the clubhouse, pickleball courts, all the outdoor amenity spaces. So there's been a number of landscaping improvements that have been proposed. In addition to that, landscaping is proposed throughout the development to supplement different areas in between buildings and some of the open spaces that have been provided. We provided detailed tree removal calculations and how that all gets broken down and to demonstrate how we would comply with the various requirements of your code. So again, that was a quick overview of the site plan. Happy to answer any questions if there's anything specific about that now, or I can turn it back over, however you'd like to proceed.
So I see Dan still in the back. I know part of this investigation was the existing sewer line and the capacity of it. I know you did some testing and some investigation. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. Do you want to? You can jump in.
I think you're referring to the INI.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And the only reason why I jumped up for Diego is because it was before he was on the team. So this was back when we were going through the secret process. So as part of the secret process, one of the payments that Toll Brothers has agreed to make is a $170,500 contribution to INI mitigation in not just in the area in the sewer area, because the correct me if I'm wrong here, but the demand, the added demand or from the projects is about 58 58,000 gallons, whereas the INI mitigation would take out 60,000 gallons that's already seeping into the line. So essentially, this would be a one-for-one. In fact, you'd gain a little bit more capacity with that payment application.
Basically, they're funding future repairs to the system.
Right, because the system that they're gonna put in on site is actually, won't have I&I, but the issue is actually off-site
Right.
I&I, so.
Everything here is gonna be new.
Right,
Correct.
right,
It's the off-site that's got some problems.
that's correct.
Why don't you have Dan come up and
Yeah.
comment.
Dan usually ghosts us when he sees we're gonna call him.
I pre-positioned myself because I figured you're gonna call me, so. Yeah, so we've been working with the Toll Brothers team. The facility itself has adequate capacity to treat everything is connected to it, or to pump everything is connected to it, but it does encounter high flows during storm periods. So, we conducted a inflow and infiltration study and identified one of the areas. There's two sub-areas in Hunter Brook, basically the area, I guess I would say on the west side of, say, what is that, Lynette Court. So everything over there, everything else is on the east side. And strangely enough, the numbers showed that the system on the west side was where the high I&I was, but that's the newer system. The older system, going back to the 60s, is on the east side. So because of that, we need to identify where the leaks are. So what we did is we decided to do both those areas in doing SSES work, sanitary sewer system evaluation. So we've awarded a contract to Cook to do television inspections, and we're sort of prioritizing areas that are highly suspect with the hope that we'll find some, but you hope you find some big ones. And Toll Brothers is going to obviously assist us with getting rid of that to mitigate their impact. And our hope is that what we identify will go well beyond the demand that they'll put on the system.
So the newer system is how old?
A lot of that was built late 90s,
And that's where the problem is.
according to the I&I, yeah.
Really?
And, one of what we did identify already was the system was built very deep, so we could get in all the areas. So the line, one of the main lines that goes into the pump station on Mill Pond Road, we had somebody who had was having a lateral problem, that there was clogging. When we did the television inspection, we saw that it was cracked, and because it's a sandy soil, it was taking on a tremendous amount of infiltration.
What kind of pipe they use?
PVC.
And it was deep.
It was deep.
Bob Brunner was right.
No, not really. The reason it failed appears to be the pipe itself didn't fail, but the service connection failed, which in a situation like that, where you're like 20 feet deep, it almost comes up vertically.
Right.
And then flattens out to go to the residents. So our suspicion was that during construction, the machine went over it, because that's where the stress was. The pipe, the main line itself was fine, but that connection was bad. So while we were out there doing that, we heard when they were setting up to do it, we found another one very similar at a service connection, a significant amount of I&I coming in. So both of those were repaired, and they weren't small leaks. Sometimes you see these little drips, and you're like, okay, if you're chasing after those, you're never going to make an impact. But both of these were significant. So one of the areas we want to check is that deep line to see if any other service connections were damaged for whether it was settlement or during the construction somebody ran over the thing. But two of them in proximity to each other raised a red flag.
Yeah. And the system from the 60s is in relatively
Well,
good?
again, according to the I&I work, it didn't, it was within the parameters for not being excessive.
Yeah.
But just given the age of the system, and it's predominantly transite pipe, for us, it was a red flag, like,
Yeah.
we need to investigate it. So that's,
So the long and short, we got a system that they're connecting to, part is from the sixties, seventies, and the other part is from the nineties.
yeah,
You're gonna go through with this funding, Wood Cook, it's been contracted, they're gonna
Yep.
examine the whole system. I'm sure you do some slip lining, some spot repairs, everything would.
yeah, I mean, it depends what the defect is.
So this funding will go to help those existing neighborhoods that this ties into.
Correct.
That's a good thing.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jesus.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Dan. Don't
Thank
run
you,
away.
buddy.
He's gonna try to leave now, watch.
I can put a couple of other things on that list of other good things that are happening for the community with the application.
Okay.
So during the secret process, we did a fiscal analysis. Obviously, the site right now is undeveloped. It had been approved for a adult living facility, but was not moving forward. And so it's underutilized, and sort of, the tax revenue is much lower on it. The project is projected to produce 1.017 million in annual net revenue. This is a 55 and older housing facility, so therefore school children. There is a $150,000 contribution to the town towards the Upper Hunterbrook soccer field upgrades, because the soccer field that's currently rented, although the lease is coming up, I think, this next year, but will be replaced. And that's in addition to what we anticipate, although obviously the planning board has to make its findings with respect to rec fees, but anticipate a $472,000 rec fee payment as well. So that's a total of $622,000 in rec fees. In addition, there's a $55,000 contribution to the voluntary ambulance corps that was part of the secret process, to help them purchase CPR machines for, I think, 4 of their vehicles. So
Did you mention the field home?
the field home being preserved, yes.
Conveyed to the town.
Yes, if the town, yes, I'm
And the-
sorry.
And the
that was-
contribution,
Yes,
the 150,000?
oh, towards the maintenance, yes. Well, in the event that the planning board.
I'm helping you out.
Yes, thank you. No, I know.
I've been
I'm
expecting a job offer probably
I'm
tomorrow
shocked
morning.
at it. No, I'm joking, John. I'm joking. Yes, in relation to the field home, obviously we're subdividing the parcel and creating it. The proposal is to convey to the town for nominal, nothing essentially, consideration, as well as a contribution of $150,000 towards maintenance, while the town figures out what it would want to do to adaptively reuse that building.
David, I have a question. You talked about age-oriented community.
Mhm.
Your materials use the phrase that we're targeting this to 55 and older. Can you just bring us up to date as to the legal framework for age-restricted communities now in New York? Does that exist? Is it, how is this gonna work? You don't use that phrase directly, you say targeting. So I'm just curious.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you for the question, and good evening, board members, and obviously town staff as well. Good to see you this evening. Very much excited to kick off this process with each of you. Regards to the age restriction itself, it is age restricted, not age targeted. The homes are obviously age targeted towards the age restriction, meaning every unit would be offered with a master down floor plan. However, the age restriction itself, from a legal standpoint, would prohibit anyone under the age of 19 from living in this community, i.e. there will be no school-age children.
So you can still do that? That restriction is still available and you can put it in?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Can I ask a question in regards to the process that you've gone through?
Mhm.
Let's talk about Catherine Street and the study that was done on that, and the traffic obviously always becomes an issue. And you said you're putting curbing in front of this side of the road?
Go ahead.
Yes.
Thank you.
Kevin Moses again. So there were coordination with the town highway superintendent, along with Dan CRC, town engineer, and town planner John Tegger. There were some improvements to Catherine Street that were identified. The traffic study, as you would note under seeker, did not rise to the occasion of any additional meaningful off-site improvements.
Right.
So what we're really doing is trying to better Catherine Street where we can, as identified by those town parties. And specifically, that means new curbing on our frontage.
Okay.
Means resetting of some catch basins and some installation of new riprap. Again, all in the effort of alleviating any drainage concerns on Catherine Street.
On your side of the road.
Correct.
So you worked with town staff, identified issues, and those issues are being addressed as per the requirements or the needs of the town.
Absolutely.
Okay.
As were identified during seeker.
Thank you.
Yes. I'll stay up if there's any other questions.
Well, I got one more. Stepping back from the details of this application, I know it went through extensive reviews by us, ancillary to the town board's actions, which took place in December. So my question is, how much of that do we need to do again, if any? And how much can we rely on all of the environmental analysis that was done before?
It might be a piggyback here, but I think seeker was extremely in-depth, in my opinion. I can't remember the volume of record that we created. It was 468 pages of record associated with the project. So I think it was not only in-depth but thoughtfully done. And that was obviously in collaboration not only with our team but with town staff and also external agencies. I think you can, with great level of confidence, rely on that record as you process this application.
And the application looks very detailed.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's,
Oh, yeah.
you know,
It'll
it's,
get better.
I think a lot of homework went into this.
If I might just
Can't
tag
believe
on to that a little bit,
Old voters.
you are
They will never-
required to review the site plan according to the town code's land use development chapter,
Mhm.
the trees chapter, the wetland chapter, the stormwater chapter, and in accordance with the New York State enabling legislation. So you still have work to do, and I don't think anything really is foreclosed except some of the findings that were done in the secret process. So that may revolve around the scope and what the mitigation and the ability to mitigate is in those terms. But in terms of laying out site plans and roads and things like that, all of that still needs to be looked at under our codes. So it's still going to look much like any site planning, but maybe there's, obviously a lot of information that you've developed already. So
So we've got two, though. We've got a subdivision
yes,
and a site plan.
right.
So can we proceed with the site plan before the subdivision? Or before the,
No, I think you have to.
excuse me, the subdivision before the site plan, or is it both the same?
Well, you may be able to approve the subdivision before you're done with the site plan possibly, but I think that as you do normally, what you do is you look at the parameters of how this, for instance, the subdivision will work, what's its best layout of development, the siting of the buildings and the roads, et cetera. I think you still have to do that here to make sure that the subdivision that's being offered for the field home doesn't hamstring its development late, right? So you have to look at those things. That may cause a little bit of shift in property lines, some there's, who knows? I mean, but I don't think you should feel as though you're not able to look at those. I think you're duty bound to
Okay.
look at those.
The way that we've tried to approach it, and you can see how, it's a pretty comprehensive package, is reviewing that together, right? Because it goes hand in hand. So in other words, what we're going to be asking you, whether it's tonight or when you're ready to set the public hearing, that the public hearing cover subdivision, site plan, special permit, and wetlands all in one, because it's all wrapped up in one in terms of the project itself.
Right.
And so we believe what you've got before you right now addresses both of those issues. So what's happening on the field home, what could potentially happen on the field home site, but more importantly, exactly what this is going to look, what the 118 unit development is going to look like as it is constructed and then in operation.
Let me ask you, in reference to on-site pedestrian movement and on the road, sidewalks, paths,
Happy to answer that question. And, I'm a licensed landscape architect. So I went to the University of Georgia. At that time, it was the #1 landscape architecture school in the country. Not tooting my horn, but just for reference. That year, We didn't win a national championship, and that's all that matters. Now, obviously, I was schooled in all the same, I would say, conventional heterodoxy that exists today as it relates to sidewalks. And I'll give you my honest opinion. And then I'll also tell you how it relates to the real world. The honest opinion is that urban planners, at some point, decided that sidewalks needed to be everywhere. It really started out within the urban context, which makes all the sense in the world. In urban contexts, you need safe places to walk, given the traffic. Now, what happened was, I think, a perversion, where those planning theories were applied to the suburban context. And I would just ask one question as it relates to sidewalks. Are we here to impose the views of a few academics on the entirety of a future community who inherently can't be here tonight to speak for themselves? And let me say now on the real world part. Toll Brothers has done developments all across the country. We have a long history in Westchester County and New York and Connecticut. And I will put it simply. Our residents prefer to walk in the road. And it's just that simple. The reason being, HOAs, sidewalks become a maintenance burden. Cost, maintenance, all of it. And if given that option, I can tell you that 9 times out of 10, our residents would prefer not to have them. And particularly when you take in the suburban context, you take in the, at times, arduous topography of Westchester County, and you take into account the traffic speeds of these communities, they're very low, and there's not a lot of cars, and there's a tremendous amount of inherent safety. You layer on that the nature of a townhome development. There's curb cuts adjacent to each other everywhere throughout this site plan. And what does that do to a sidewalk? It creates an endless path of ups and downs as you traverse these driveways. It doesn't create a walking surface that people want to be on. So all in all, we have not proposed sidewalks for the variety of reasons I've just listed. And we fully hope that they will not be imposed on this community.
Thank you for your input.
That's, never thought of that.
The answer was no.
No sidewalks.
I told you you'd be doing some site planning, so.
Yeah.
Yes, we're starting.
So we're happy to answer any other questions. We have one question for your board in terms of procedure moving forward with respect to the moving this along on the agenda. I don't believe we had a public, or we might have had a public information session a while ago. I don't know, but we've had, you know, multiple public meetings before your board, before the town board. We had a 4-hour public hearing on the SEQR and town board. I'm wondering if this board still feels we need a public information session rather than just moving this onto the public hearing agenda to have the public hearing itself. And the only other thing is that, you know, at this point, the plan and the details about mitigation, et cetera, have been so well vetted, you know, through the last couple of years that I think the purpose of the public information session versus the public hearing is probably passed.
Yeah, I frankly, with this at this point,
Yeah.
I would have no issue passing on unless anybody else has got a.
There you go, 100%.
We'll just have to make sure that you can not do it.
Okay. I mean, at this point, it's been in front of the board for the town board.
We beat it to death.
Right.
Well,
Now it's
the
just-
subdivision hasn't.
Is that right? Was that discussed at the?
Yeah.
Subdivision, I don't
Subdivision
believe
portion
was
of that?
No,
that
it's
part of the town board?
Subdivision was always part
Yeah,
of it.
it's part of it, yeah.
I mean, it wasn't discussed at length during a lot of the public, but it was there for people to
Well, did
understand.
the town board make any findings with respect to the subdivision?
Yeah, I mean, the subdivision was one of the actions that they took a look at. From a substantive perspective, the issue was what's going to happen with the field home.
I understand that, but that would be regardless of whether there's a subdivision or not, that issue was being discussed. The question is, did the town board hold anything with respect to the subdivision in terms of the public's participation?
Well, the entire proposal was before the town board. So whether it was, you look at this as a site plan or a subdivision or special permit or rezoning, all of those issues were before them.
Curious, just as a show of hands, anybody from the audience here on this application? I think that
shows you.
it's been vetted if we got nobody here.
That's it.
Well, there was public participation.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know that
So
they're
why
necessarily
can't we do
aware
that?
of this agenda item tonight.
All right, so we gotta start drilling into the details then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all the sidewalks that Toll Brothers will have to put in. It was very well put, by the way. And we appreciate good landscape architecture.
So.
All right, so we'll start digging into the details on the,
I would appreciate if there's any planning issues that we could, in terms of the site plan, that jump out at you, that you could help identify some of that stuff.
We'll develop a memo or two for you.
Okay,
sure.
good.
obviously I would keep in close contact. See, he did ghost us. Nancy Arsen. And, the planning office.
So,
Okay.
Could we maybe set some next steps or expectations for the process?
They're gonna look into, any obligations we got for that public informational. I think once we know that, we'll have a better idea how we're gonna move forward. Obviously, JMC will be working closely with Nancy Arcia and John's office, John and Robin. And we'll start to dig into the details on this. All right? So let's see if what they
David,
come
did
up
you,
with first.
did you say in that cul-de-sac down on the bottom there, did you say there's fire access?
It is a fire compliant cul-de-sac.
But there's no way to get to that cul-de-sac from the other lot, say from the field home lot?
That is
So the
correct.
only two
There's-
entrances to the entire development are the street, the curb
Maybe we
cuts on
should have
Catherine.
one. That's a
That
good
is
point.
correct.
So that's a pretty long run. I mean, I know we've looked at,
Yeah.
Breakaway barriers or?
yeah, something on that cul-de-sac would be, if you could be helpful.
As in an emergency access?
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, nothing more than that.
That, I don't foresee that being an issue. We're already going to be, I think, extinguishing and recreating a number of easements for the two parcels, so.
Right.
I don't see that being an issue whatsoever. That is unless the smarter people behind me say different.
very good point.
But big picture, if
very-
you guys could
very
just
good.
give me a sense of what this looks like, timing moving forward. I know obviously John and his staff need some time to digest and, as you say, go through the details, but is it, as far as next steps and timing, can we expect a memo in 30 days and some determination of more definite next steps?
I think we'll probably have an idea of where we're going with the PIH.
Yeah.
In the next.
We'll figure out the PIH quickly.
Right.
In terms of any memos, they'll definitely, I think, at least an initial memo, can't promise there won't be others that come up as
Right.
things come up, if they do come up. But yeah, before 30 days, we'll have a memo out for you.
Do we have to address anything with regard to the tree?
Oh, yeah, we did get a letter. Did you guys see this?
We did, and
Okay.
I think that's more of number crunching than anything. I didn't have any major concerns there. So we'll work through that and make sure it's represented appropriately.
This is right in your wheelhouse.
You got it.
Okay. All right. So
So we'll expect a memo,
Yeah.
we'll hear some word, hopefully be back before you guys in June at the
I'm
latest,
sure you'll
I
be
would
back
say.
here regularly, right, as you guys work through the details.
Yeah. Okay,
All right?
that sounds like a plan.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Unless, anything else for you, Dave?
That's it.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Good? Thanks,
Thank you
guys.
everyone very much.
All right, next we got a ZBA referral, number 15-25. This is the Lamp subdivision. Address is 357 Crow Hill Road. How
Good
are you?
evening, Jody
Hi.
Cross from Zarin and Steinmetz. I still sound a little bit like a Muppet. I apologize. So when we were last here, there were just some questions on who was contacted by the state in the town offices. So we've learned that Neil Collier had reached out both to Jason Zeef, but I don't think he heard back from him. But he did hear back from John Landy, who had sent an email to the state saying he had no objections to the application. So I think that was all the information you were waiting for to send us off to the ZBA. We're actually on the agenda for the 22nd. But we're here for the official referral.
Any other issues?
Were we looking for something from the fire marshal's office, or is building department sufficient on that?
Building department's the CEO.
Oh,
Well, the thing that we left with last time was to, just for the record, is to have
Letter.
who they spoke to, because in their variance approval, they, they cited that they spoke to somebody and that the town didn't have a problem with, so we just wanted to get that into the record, which
And
we
that's what
have
I see.
now, yes.
okay.
You know that you've had a number of memos from the fire board and the fire inspector, et cetera, They all say they built one upon the other in terms of information and commentary, but this has passed the state, so they actually they can vary it from the code, but, of course, I always have to state that you guys have, final, I think,
Well, ZBA.
say in terms of, well, they're going to the ZBA for the 280A, which is the no frontage.
Correct.
They're not going for this.
Okay.
This is a state code issue. But you're always empowered to make some higher standards if you feel that they should. That's all. But I think,
Fire doesn't want it, I don't think we need it.
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
Go ahead. You all right with that?
So if you feel comfortable, then it's a warm fuzzy memo to ZBA.
Is it warm fuzzy?
Warm and fuzzy.
Okay,
That's
Thank
it.
you for warm and fuzzy.
All right.
Have a great night. So, well, I guess then after, assuming we get approved at the ZBA, hopefully we will, we'll come back here for our public hearing on the subdivision application.
Go from there.
right.
Great. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Take care. All right, next we got 3 town board referrals that we've been talking about over the last few meetings. The first one we have is chapter 300. This is accessory dwelling units. So we've got the final memo. That went out.
April 30th,
Yep. Anything else we gotta talk about with that?
what do you think?
Okay.
It did go out, or do we approving it?
It's
Yeah.
draft.
These are all drafts for
Oh,
you.
they're
Yeah, so we
to
just
consider,
gotta
yeah.
approve them and.
Oh, okay.
When we were last with you, we said we'd take our first stab at drafts for you to finalize
First
tonight.
stabs. And we have, I know Reardon sent some comments,
Yeah,
because she couldn't be here. So this memo incorporate everything we were talking about.
Mhm.
Any alterations, or are we good to go?
good.
Good to go, looks like.
John?
If you have nothing further, we do not.
Okay.
Counselor, we good?
I believe so.
All right, so that memo's a go. Next, we have town board referral in reference to, again, chapter 300, battery energy storage systems. Again, we have another memo that was drafted up. I think this looks good.
Yeah, no problem there.
One of the things that I was thinking about on both of these, the battery and the solar, was the environmental analysis of these things is fairly limited because it only talks about the town of Yorktown. But it doesn't talk about the energy needs. I mean, the governor has energy needs that are identified for the state. Have we in Yorktown or in Westchester, have we met our obligations to that or not? I'm just wondering if that's even an issue we could think about. It's kind of what we were talking about, meeting needs of the future on both of these things, you know?
I don't know how, I mean, if you think about the way things are headed, especially back and forth with the electric, the cars being electric and everything going electric, right? I don't know.
Maybe.
Again, you don't know what tech is around the turn there.
Well, there is new tech that, a new type of, nuclear plants. They're smaller, more efficient, they have less waste. As a matter of fact, I believe, I might be misspeaking, I believe the state is trying to build one in Fort Bragg or something like that. I forget the exact town. So there is other tech that's coming out. I did review the meeting video from a couple of weeks ago. You know, I just, especially on the solar stuff, you know, I hope your memo incorporates, you know, facts. I know that there was a lot of opinion on the town board and that we didn't do our homework. And I know the attorney that spoke, David Cooper, I found his comments to be, you know, unprofessional, amateurish. And it was like a feeble attempt to try to drive a wedge between our respective boards. So that's where I'm at with that. As far as the battery energy storage systems, they're getting banned pretty much everywhere around us. And as far as the solar, there was some, I think, incorrect information regarding how the energy that we would be producing here ends up in the grid, and how that energy is going to lower our costs here. That being said, I haven't really made any decisions. I'm waiting to hear from the public. And I will tell you, my colleagues on the town board haven't made any decisions either. And I know that there was some comments that we had already decided or something like that, something to that effect. But that is not the case. We're trying to keep an open mind. So that's where it is. And if you have, I hope your memo contains some factual, you know, stuff in it, you know, as opposed to just, you know, saying that the board was short-sighted in putting this in front, which is, I think, was mentioned several times. So that's where we're at with that. I know that as far as solar, many of the towns around us have already banned it. That doesn't mean that we're gonna ban it. That doesn't mean that we should ban it because other people ban it.
Who's done that?
But we're
Who's
waiting for
already
the
done
public
that?
hearing. What?
Who's already done that?
There's several. I have an email. I could send it to you. I have the information for that.
I stand by these memos that we wrote.
Town of Cortland?
I think we should send these memos as they are.
No, I'm not. Listen, I'm certainly not here, you know, to influence you in any way. I think whatever your memos are, but I did review the video, and there was some things in there that just were not accurate. So I just figured I'd mention them to you. Yeah, I respect you guys. You know that.
The feeling's mutual, Sergio.
I know.
Well, I think that, you know, one of the unique things is that we look at every project on its own merits. And that takes everything into account, from the geography to the, you know, the density, whatever it might be. Every project has its own merits and its own challenges. And to that end, these are the types of things that, you know, may have a place. And just saying that, I'm not suggesting anybody is short-sighted, but just saying that there may be a place and there may be a need done responsibly. I stand by these memos as well.
I agree. We are, Rich?
I like the memos. If you want, I could read them. You might feel bad for my children after I do when they were younger.
I might what? You can read them. You don't have to read them.
No, I
Whatever
mean,
you want to do.
I do think
It doesn't
it's-
matter to me. I just, like
No,
I
I
said,
hear you.
the comments about short-sightedness were short-sighted comments.
All right,
You know,
not-
I'm just
all right,
saying, so.
Listen, Sergio, that's not in our memo. Okay?
Why don't I read the memos?
Yeah.
Okay. Shouldn't take that long. I apologize in advance. So this is to the town board from the planning board dated April 30th, which obviously is come and gone. Town board referral, chapter 300, battery energy storage systems. Excuse me. At its meeting of April 21st, 2025, the planning board discussed the subject referral. The board believes that electrical infrastructure, like all infrastructure, is important and necessary to the health, safety, and welfare of the Yorktown residents. The planning board respectfully submits that the given closure of Indian Point and more frequent incidents such as blackouts, brownouts, and storm-related outages, that it would be more prudent course for the plan for Tier 2 BESS installation rather than eliminate them. The board believes that all our endeavors come with certain risks and that these must be and can be managed to reduce the risks to an acceptable level. In this way, the town can manage the reinforcement of our electrical infrastructure so it is able to provide more consistent, reliable, and in this case, clean electrical energy in a safe way. The planning board therefore recommends that a complete ban on recommends against, sorry, thank you, Counselor, a complete ban of Tier 2 BESS installations. The board recommends amend the law to provide the most optimal conditions for these systems. Some considerations are as follows. 1. Require additional inspections by qualified industry experts during construction. 2. Require the periodic inspection by qualified industry experts of operating systems. 3. Require initial and periodic training of first responders. 4. Require an adequate emergency response plan vetted by industry experts, which can also be used as a training tool for emergency responders. And 5, investigate and determine if additional criteria are warranted. Lastly, the board reiterates an earlier comment that the law, if amended to ban such systems, remains in force to continue to regulate existing systems. Respectfully submitted. And then we got the next memo, which is subject town board referral 300, solar power generator systems and facilities. At its meeting of April 21st, 2025, the planning board discussed the subject referral. The board believes that electrical infrastructure, like all infrastructure, is important and necessary to the health, safety, and welfare of the general public. I'll skip to the second part because it's the same thing. The board wishes to respectfully point out thus far its approvals of large-scale solar installations do not exhibit a significant set of failures. 6 large-scale solar installations have been approved by the board. Of these, 3 are on active farms in residential zones, which was supported because there was less trees to be removed from these sites. One of these is potentially visible from Yorktown's trail system, and one is visible from neighboring properties as well as a well-traveled state road. The third is largely internal to itself. The 4th installation was constructed on an inactive farm which abuts commercial uses on 3 sides and a Coniston right-of-way. While currently, visible from certain points, 2 facts must be addressed. 1, the site's visibility is from commercial areas in which it is expected to remain allowable use. This renders the visual impact no less significant or undesirable than installations that can be yet developed on abutting commercial properties. 2, the buffer screening has only been installed for 1 season and therefore has not yet matured. A 5th installation was constructed on a residential property on less acreage that was previously reviewed for a residential subdivision. And as of date of this memo, the required buffer screening has not yet been installed. In addition, a conservation restriction was placed on 6 acres of the property between the Mohegan Outlet and Lockwood Road to remain in its natural state for at least the life of the solar installation. The 6th installation is located on the IBM property and would still not be allowed.
Still
be allowed.
I told you gotta feel bad for my judge.
Too much reading.
He's changing the law, like, he's changing the memo as we speak.
Right, right.
Altering it. The board therefore does not feel that large-scale solar installations should be banned from residential zones because every site is unique and measures are in place that and can be strengthened to protect the residents from perceived negative impacts. So there was no
Okay.
trashing or anything with the sewer.
No, that was at the last meeting was what I was referring to, not your memos. And it wasn't trashing. I wouldn't call it that.
Listen,
All right.
before we okay that draft, I would ask one question. Would you want a battery storage unit within your residence, near your residence? And that's how we gotta vote on that battery storage.
So what I know is enough to know that the engineers that I've listened to and through codes courses have been improving these things. And everything I've heard is that they're improving quite quickly. So if there was something, again, and it was done the correct way, I wouldn't necessarily oppose it. But you'd want to, again, as we always say here, the devil's in the details.
How many,
And I-
how many battery storage units went up in flames in the last couple of years?
There's been a few.
Yeah, of course.
How many are there?
Yeah, I mean, again, you could say the same about a 1,000-gallon propane tank that's sitting adjacent to Burger King, that somebody runs off the road and hits it, could explode. And now, that's not a residential area, but lots of folks have propane tanks on their residential property.
And I think part of the issue here, and Sergio, I'm sure you, because you're here at all these meetings, is this came fast and furious, right? This was, the governor's put this 2032? Somewhere in there?
2030.
2030, thank you. Mandate in, and all of a sudden, the floodgates open. And I don't think anybody was ready for that, frankly. So, as the town board rightfully is doing, they're looking at tweaking the code, because they did come so fast and furious, and everybody started to question, oh, they're going all over the place, they're cutting trees, you know, again, it's one of these things where there's gotta be a balance, we talked about this. They're cutting trees, but you need electric. You drive upstate New York, right? There's windmills all over the place. It's just a different world we're in. So, I think there has to be more study when these applications do come in, and it's gotta be in the right place. Again, when I went to the Westchester County Planning Federation meeting probably a month back, there was a gentleman there from Westchester County Hazmat, and he talked about an application we had in town here. And he felt the location was improper because there was no way to control the Taconic. And if there was a fire.
That didn't go through yet.
No, but again, when you have that kind of set of eyes, an emergency
Right.
response person's eyes looking at it, he goes, what happens if all this smoke blows across the Taconic? People are gonna be running. That's something that needs to be looked at. But it was by the county, and that was, part of their comment. So when these things are vetted correctly, I think it can be done. But again, they came so fast and furious that I think everybody was taken off guard. And I think when people started seeing all these trees removed and these things going up, and even with the vegetation, like the Hill property and others, it's gonna take some time for some of that vegetation to grow. I think as we saw those things being built, we took a step back amongst ourselves and said we have to better screen these things, but that's just my,
So why don't we vote on the resolutions and see.
The memos.
And see what we can do.
You guys are having issues with these two memos.
does anybody wanna alter the memos in any way?
Let's do one at a time. Do the solar one.
Okay, so we have first the chapter 300 with the solar. Any alterations to the memo? You right?
No alteration, but I'm not gonna vote for it.
Okay,
That's fine.
All right.
I move that we adopt that memo,
I second.
solar memo.
Do we have a quorum or two people missing?
All you need is,
3.
three, so, yeah.
Remember all the meetings we had with three of us?
Okay.
Then we have,
So you voted?
yes, we voted
Did Willie vote in
I vote
opposition?
aye, you vote
Aye.
aye and one no.
opposed?
And a nay?
Opposed.
Okay.
All right, and then in reference to the battery energy storage systems, the memo as proposed, any alterations or changes? All right, so we go to vote on that memo.
Move to accept it.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Me.
Okay.
Got it.
Good.
A
I
lot
hear
gooder
you.
than me.
I hear you.
I think the important thing, and Willie makes a good point, right? In a residential area, a tier 2 battery storage system may not be appropriate. But we've got to be able to look at the plan and make that decision.
We have to look at
Banning
it.
them completely, so
Right.
that's.
And again, I understand the concerns of people that are living next to these things or potentially living, but that's gotta get looked at.
Right.
Every one of these is like a fingerprint, you know? Every day you see something new.
That's true.
And all I've heard about the tech is it's,
You know,
Hydrogen's
when you
coming.
look at the technology advanced in the last 5 years,
oh, it's scary.
the battery storage and solar will be out of date within 5 years, guaranteed.
That very well
They
might
have,
be
they,
the
now they
case.
have fusion, reactors that devour their own waste,
I hope they do.
you know?
I want them to make solar compact enough so that you can put it on your car roof and then drive around.
They have that. We've seen it. There's our building inspector, or deputy building inspector in Greenberg, she's got a piece in her office that is flexible, and it could go basically on your car now. Charge the battery.
You're probably right. I mean, this
Listen,
stuff would.
the technology is not efficient enough to generate the amount of power to power an automobile as you drive down with the sun.
Right.
So, you know,
Maybe it will be.
that's.
But it could, if you need,
That's why you need 1,000 of them on
Yeah.
each property.
Let me just say one thing. In my family, we have 5 Teslas. And it's such an inconvenience to drive from here to Staten Island because you gotta stop and you gotta charge. And what does the charge take? It takes a half hour to get a full charge. And then you gotta get back on the road and start, and it's such an imposition, and why they have these.
You know who figured that out?
I have a Jeep.
20 years ago? The Israelis. You know what their idea was? Create an electric vehicle with a propane exchange model. You pull up and you say you don't want to fill up. You pull into a gas station, and what you do is you switch
gas.
out 3 of your battery compartments.
Yeah, I've heard that today.
And
Oh.
so what you say is, I want a half a tank. Half a tank,
That would
right?
be a great
And you
idea.
take 3 of them and you slide them in. Now, they would be heavy, but, you know, we do that all the time with battery backups on computers.
That could work.
And so you compartmentalize it.
Yeah.
And so now it doesn't take that half an hour.
I mean,
Anyway.
again,
You still
when you-
have energy generation though. You know,
there's so many things to look at. And again, for the
Pretty
first
good idea.
responders,
Public hearings are tomorrow.
that's, you know, the ones who
Public
really
hearings
gotta
are tomorrow?
wanna win.
No, I don't think we set the public hearing yet on it.
Solar, they haven't set the public hearing. They'll set it
Batteries?
tomorrow. Battery, the public hearing is tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what we're talking about.
We
We're talking
missing
about solar
anything?
or we're talking about batteries?
We're talking
Dan's
about
still
clean
waiting in the
energy.
back.
Clean energy. I got you.
Are we good?
Yeah, go ahead.
The motion to close the meeting.
Motion.
Second.
I wanna stay here. All's in favor, aye. Thank you.